Imagine being trapped in a car, surrounded by 22 million killer bees. No way out, no backup, just you, your mother, and a single EpiPen. What would you do to survive? This true nightmare is about to unfold. Stick around and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The girl's whole family had severe bee allergies, yet she and her mother ended up trapped inside a car surrounded by 22 million deadly bees. They were caught in a traffic accident and blocked by a truck carrying hives. The crates shattered across the road, releasing clouds of furious bees into the air. The truck driver rushed over for help, but instead terrified the already panicked mother and daughter, who screamed in fear. Within seconds, the unlucky driver was stung into unconsciousness. As more bees filled the sky, the mother frantically dialed 911. Luckily, dispatcher Maddie answered, keeping them calm. The mother grabbed their only EpiPen, but just then, the bee started slipping into the car through the vent. As she reached to shut it, 3 bees were already buzzing toward her daughter. Maddie told them to hold still, but one bee crawled across the girl's face. The mother was too scared to even breathe. When the bee mirrored her daughter's eye,
"Go away, stupid bee! Breathe up! No!"
The girl panicked and slapped her own face, leaving the stinger buried in her skin. The venom spread quickly, and her allergic reaction made it nearly impossible to breathe. Desperate, the mother jabbed the EpiPen into her daughter's thigh. Thankfully, the shot worked instantly, and the girl could breathe again. The mother barely sighed in relief before another bee stung her in the neck. But they only had that one dose. Seconds later, the mother herself was gasping for air. With no other choice, Maddie guided the girl to use the remaining medication. The mother, fading fast, cut the EpiPen in half with scissors, pulled out the needle, and collapsed. In a panic, the girl stabbed the improvised needle into her mother's leg and pushed the plunger down. Just in time, her mother's breathing steadied again. But the nightmare wasn't over. Their survival now depended on firefighters. When rescuers arrived, the truck driver had no pulse, and the mother and daughter's car was swarming with bees. Anyone caught outside had been stung dozens of times, their bodies swelling badly. But just as the team began the rescue, their CO2 canister failed. Bees had clogged the tube, stopping the pump from working. Worse, the truck's fuel tank suddenly caught fire. With the bees growing more aggressive, firefighters rushed to put out the flames. Inspired by the smoke, Buck grabbed a blower and blasted it toward the car crawling with bees. As smoke spread, the bees scattered. When the car door opened, the mother and daughter clung to each other, barely surviving. But one man wasn't so lucky. His face and throat were so swollen that paramedics discovered his airway blocked. When they opened his mouth, a bee flew out, followed by dozens clinging to his tongue. A suction machine pulled the insects from his throat, and finally, the man gasped awake. But just as relief came, a thunderous noise erupted. The bees swarmed again, this time creating a massive tornado-like bee-nado sweeping east toward the city. By nightfall, the swarm vanished from radar. As temperatures dropped, the bees clustered in a single spot, coincidentally, the venue for a luxury perfume launch scheduled the next morning. Disaster struck the moment the perfume was sprayed.
Oh my God!
The scent lured the bees inside, and chaos exploded at the event. Guests fled screaming as bees stung everything in sight. The unluckiest victim was an assistant doused in perfume, becoming the hive's prime target. She bolted for safety, leaping into a swimming pool, only to be stung again as she surfaced. A bystander dialed 911 as the assistant clung to a hose, praying firefighters would arrive. Buck realized the bees were obsessed with floral scents, so he suggested spraying Eddie, the fastest runner. Eddie bolted, leading the swarm away while rescuers treated the assistant. Her body was covered in stingers, nearly 1,000 lodged in her skin. Hen grabbed duct tape, pressed it to her arm, and ripped it off, pulling stingers out in strips. As her airway cleared and pulse stabilized, Eddie, now blanketed in bees, looked like a walking hive. At last, an expert arrived with a vacuum, sucking the swarm off Eddie before it was too late. But the nightmare wasn't over. The swarm rose back into the sky. In that moment, a small plane flew straight into its path. The pilot mistook the dark cloud for weather until the cockpit vents filled with bees. Stung midair, he lost control and the aircraft went spiraling down. Meanwhile, Sergeant Grant, escorting a murder suspect through security, boarded a commercial flight. He planned to meet the captain to ensure LAPD would be ready at landing, but before he could, the plane shook violently. A sudden malfunction left passengers screaming. What happens when 22 million bees return? The story isn't over. Subscribe and join us for the next terrifying chapter.